Hey, welcome to Please Don't Kick Me Out, the only inclusive podcast about imposter syndrome. And today I have someone very special, unique, exciting, one of my husband's old shipmates, like way back in the day, like beginning of his career. And we're talking, it's almost been 20 years here. So wow, we both feel old when I just said that. But anyway, this is my husband's friend, who's now my dear friend, Jackie. Jackie, hello. This is a bit,
Hello.
yeah, it's audio and visual, and I'm not sure where to look and what to do with my hands. So, it's new. We're new here. But Jackie, why don't you go ahead and give everyone an overview, 30,000 foot overview, elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, etc.
So, my name is Jackie, and online, I go by Red Velvet Art, Ready Whip, depending on, what I'm doing or talking about. Like Ready Whip for roller derby, Red Velvet Art for my illustration stuff, all that fun stuff. So it's accurate, or what do you call it? Nom de plumes, things like that. It's a lot of fun. But I am an illustrator. I am a roller derby player, fire dancer, and general jack of all trades, or Jackie of all trades, I guess.
Good one.
Any form, any like creative outlet there is, I've either dabbled in it or want to, be it cosplay or poetry, painting, mural art, miniatures, graphic design, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and as you know, with ADHD, the whole cyclical hyper fixation. So some of those have actually stuck with me for a little bit, and so I'm I would call myself a multimedia artist.
That's awesome. May I ask how old you were when you were diagnosed? Because I know women, sometimes they're a lot older.
Diagnosed with which? ADHD?
ADHD, yes.
So I don't have an official diagnosis because the VA has given me the runaround.
Oh, of course they do.
Of course they are. So, but my psychiatrist and my therapist are like, you definitely have it. You just need to go through that whole official screening to get your diagnosis. That way you can get your medication. So, but when it comes to having known, it's been about 3 years. I had a friend of mine down in Orange County, and she's like, you have ADHD, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you have every single symptom. And I'm like, okay, I have generalized anxiety disorder, depression, that kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, and this and this and this. And I'm like, well, do you have ADHD? She's like, yeah, and I have all the same stuff. I'm like, okay. So I started looking into it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel seen.
Yeah. So this episode releases exactly 1 week after my beautiful conversation with ADHD coach Ron, who's been on the podcast twice. And what you said about, I'm going to validate, first of all, your feelings. The fact that you've got two people, medical professionals, they're like, you have it, you just have to go through the right hoops. For my listeners who are not privy to anyone that's a veteran or working in the veteran space or working in TRICARE, there's a lot of red tape that surrounds disability and your disability benefits. Given if they submit something wrong, then you get no money. And you earned that, and medically especially earned that. So as a veteran, I can understand like where you're like, okay, now I got to go through, is that going to affect everything? And then like the bureaucratic red tape of everything. But of course, once you get the diagnosis, once you get the medication, you're good and gravy, but like it takes a while and it's hard. But something that Ron had mentioned was that like a lot of people, not even in the VA, but just like a lot of people in general, they don't have the means or the financial comeuppance to be able to get those actual diagnoses. So we still want to validate if someone doesn't have the official on paper and the Adderall prescription or whatever that prescription might be, which is me. To take it back, was marketing director, got laid off in 2020. Scott was getting ready to deploy on the Macon Island. And I wanted to start my podcast, and I didn't know I had ADHD. All my friends had it. My husband had it. And he was re-diagnosed while he was on that ship, and he'd had it as a kid. And Scott sat me down and he gave me a piece of paper and he's like, fill this out. And I did. And then I scored like 36 or something on it. And I'm like, ooh, high score. What's that mean? He's like, nah, dude, you got to go to a doctor. Like you have it, like beyond you just have it. So I've been medicated on it. I've had a psychologist as well affirm it. Since I was 30, almost 31, and now I'm going to be 34. And I've gone kind of run the gamut of different types of medication. At one point, an SSRI, and like you have generalized anxiety and Now that's turned into IBS. Great. Love
Oh
that
God.
journey for me. Yeah. The health is just woo.
Isn't that just great?
No, it really is. And it isn't, because like my body was like, well, you know what, for 34 years, we held in there, and you're about to move again. And guess what? Up and out. Whoop, whoop. So yesterday, actually, I just got, I had to go take an HPLR test, which is like for an ulcer. Don't have an ulcer. So then on Monday, I have finally a gastrointestinal follow-up appointment. I'm on Select, not Prime, if that makes sense. But yeah, I had
TRICARE, right?
Right, TRICARE, yeah. And I went to the ER at Tripler. Well, it was over the holidays, and I was like, I don't want to risk with my husband in a situation of getting, staying active duty and almost getting out or whatever. And the situation more than my listeners do, and it would bore them to death. So I won't tell them. I didn't want to run into us suddenly being stuck with a bill due to medical miscoding. And so I was like, well, I'll just go to the ER on base. It's fine. So no, I've been dealing with that since beginning of December, because my husband took a trip, and then all of a sudden I couldn't keep anything down. And then he got back, and I was still not feeling great. And then I went to urgent care, and all they could do was give me Pedialyte, because it was Schofield. He was like, here's the Pedialyte popsicles and an IV and Zofran. And then I went to the ER, and then I finally contacted my doctor after New Year's, because it was like the day after New Year's. And I was like, hi, the stuff we've been treating? Yeah. The intake forms I've been filling out? Totally lied on them. It's a 3 out of 1. It's a 3. I've got anxiety up the wazoo. But yeah, no, we're on the right track now. So we'll hopefully have some answers, but Scott and I have a feeling that the gastrointestinal person is just going to be like, there's nothing in there.
Yeah, I have a similar thing with your anxiety and being gastrointestinal. Mine is all in my chest.
Oh yeah,
so too. I get the chest tightness, the angina, like the heart pain, shortness of breath, and then like all the physical symptoms that come with the fight or flight response when I have a panic attack. And my biggest issue with that right now is having moved from California to Oregon. I'm dealing with which is 99% of the change that I've gone through since September has been positive, and I would love to get into that. And I think you'd find like some of my more recent experiences really fascinating, but dealing with a whole new Veterans Affairs system through the Roseburg, going from the San Diego Long Beach or San Diego VA, like La Jolla, up to Long Beach, and moving up to Bishop, and living in Bishop, which is incredibly rural, and having to deal with that, which is a whole other story, having to drive 6 hours every month to see a mental health person.
Holy shit. In Oregon?
No, when we were living in Bishop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we were living in Bishop, California for about 10 years, and it is as rural as you can possibly get in California. It's on the other side of the Sierra Nevada, in the Owens Valley, in between Reno and San Bernardino, and there's no VA there. And the one in Reno, you can't, and you can't really get to the one in Reno in the winter because the snow gets so bad. And so it made sense to go to the VA in Long Beach in Orange County. Well, I would stay in Orange County because my in-laws are there, so we had a place to go. And it was nice to, get out of Bishop for, a week every month, actually do some shopping. I didn't feel so isolated and, out of my mind. But dealing with the VA in Oregon, I finally got a new psychiatrist, because I need my medication to function.
Obviously, yeah.
And I take
what a novel idea.
I know. Go figure. I have a chemical imbalance in my brain that needs medication. Oh my God. And I got a new psychiatrist, and so she refilled my prescriptions for Lexapro, Buspar, or like escitalopram, whatever that is, and Buspar, and then hydroxyzine for sleep. And I also had a prescription for Ativan for 4 or 5 years, and I only take it in instances where I know I'm going to be in a very triggering environment, or I'm going to be around something that is going to spike my anxiety, and it helps take the edge off, so I don't need to come all the way down from the top. Like, because I've been doing MBSR, like the mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's great. But but there are times where like before I fly,
Mm-hmm.
or if I'm going to be in a social setting that I know is going to make me in like crazy anxious, like I, because of military sexual assault trauma,
Yep.
I have a hard time being around groups of men. So I know if I'm going to be,
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm going to be in an environment where there are a lot of men, or I'm going to, yeah, in that kind of situation, I know I should take one of my Ativan with me just in case.
Yeah.
It's not like something I had to take every day, but this psychiatrist, she doesn't believe in like that medication because she's like, oh, it's habit forming and it's,
Mm.
high risk of dependency. And I'm like, I've been on this for 4 or 5 years or whatever. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly how long because time blindness. But so I get 6 to 12 pills, like a half milligram dose per month. I'm not
Yeah.
taking it every day. And she refuses to prescribe it to me.
Even though
So,
you have like oh my God. Hey, is there a
and
cunt
it's,
I can punch? Yeah. Can you like point me in the
man,
direction?
I wish because I am
God.
not a shy person when it comes to pursuing what I need.
Well, you were in the
I will not
military,
like,
so I would imagine you're
yeah,
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will not shirk back. Like I will be that squeaky wheel. I will be the
Yeah.
squeaky wheel so I can get my grease.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm currently going through the VA system here to try to get my emergency anxiety medication. So that's fun. Um, but yeah, the VA is has been a hit or miss, and I've had some really amazing experiences.
Yeah.
Um, I had the best OBGYN because I also have PCOS and endometriosis.
Wow. Just the
And
whole lottery. Same.
just the whole
I
shebang, the whole shebang.
have
Um,
everything wrong with me. It's
and
okay too.
yeah, so my doctor in Long Beach was great. And I don't have one up here yet in Oregon because
Yeah.
I do like endometriosis pain is no joke.
Do you have to
Um,
go through the VA for that, or can you go through someone that can take like select or whatever?
um, oh, like care in the community is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I think the VA has, or Patriot's Choice. And I can, if it's an emergency. Otherwise, I have to call the coordinator and then they have to like find a clinic that accepts care in the community and schedule with
Why
them.
do we
And
do this to our veterans? I'm
I,
mad. I'm mad for you.
yeah, it's tough and it's just a lot of being on hold and a
Hmm.
lot of shopping around for some place that actually takes VA health insurance.
Yeah.
Um, but I got really lucky recently, a couple months ago when I was really going through it and desperate for a therapist or someone to talk to work through stuff because I
Yeah.
recently went through a major psychological shift in my thinking in introspection. I really needed someone to help me work on processing all the stuff that
Hmm.
I've been feeling and going
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And Oregon State funds the Veterans Center, and they have licensed therapists there for free.
Thank
And
goodness.
I got matched with a female veteran therapist that
Yeah.
specializes in military sexual assault trauma.
Which thank you for vulnerability with that. I just have to tell you right now, because you said it earlier and I was
You know,
like, wait a second. I
oh
wanted
yeah,
to say
I
thank
mean
you for your vulnerability. And it's a real
it's
thing. It
of course
happens.
I'm an open book on this kind of stuff because it's important. I feel that it's important to be heard on these things, especially because
Absolutely.
at the time when these things were happening to us in the early 2000s, we couldn't really come out about it. We couldn't talk
No.
about it.
No.
And therapy was not as accepted
Yeah.
as it is now. And I'm like, everyone should go to therapy. Like, if I ever
Same.
get rich or
Yeah.
win the lottery, I'm like, all of my friends are getting therapy.
And you
Every
get
person
therapy
I
and you
you
get
have to have a
therapy
therapy. You get
and
therapy.
you get mindful
Exactly.
based training and you get mindful based training.
Yep.
Oh, I love that.
Exactly. So, um, and so since I'm comfortable with talking about my experiences, I hope that that gives others courage to, you know,
Come
seek
forward.
help.
Yeah.
Exactly. Since I've reached a point where I am okay with talking about that.
I don't really talk about it often, but I too, me too. I mean, most women, or I
Most.
identify as non-binary, so she, they, but I
Oh,
look,
sorry. Oh,
oh no, 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 you're fine. No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just telling people if they're new here. Hi, my name is Bianca Walwick. This is my podcast about imposter syndrome. Anyway, I just through my advocacy work and whatnot, but I've been in therapy since 2020. We put my dog down, and that, like, I had a rescue and we had to put him down, and that brushed up a lot of stuff for me, plus losing my job, plus ADHD, plus all this. I just kind of had this moving target. So I started therapy. There's a lot I haven't processed. So I'm a child of narcissism. I have both an in sibling and an in mom. I actually had a fun conversation with my in mom today where she told me that I was telling her about RuPaul's Drag Race. I was like, oh, my friend came over to watch Drag Race. And she's like, can't you guys watch like normal shows? And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But anyway, and so
I was just, oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You can say something.
I was listening to your podcast where you were talking about how you don't have any, like, you refuse to unblock one of your siblings, and
my only
how
sibling.
you and your mom. yeah. And your only sibling, you only have one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the oldest.
I'm just not at a point where I'm not at a point where I can do it right now. My mom is Diet Coke version of it, right? Like my mom can say something stupid and I'm like, whatever, boomer, and hang up on her. It's not a big deal. And I still have love and adoration for my mom. She might not love me in the way that I needed. And I know that really hurts people's feelings when they hear that, but it's not a dig. It's truly something that I had to learn and work through in therapy, is that my inner child, it has to be healed by me, because the yearning and the want for my parent never really happens. So to go back to like sexual assault, in college, I was raped at a fraternity. Then instead of the university or my parents or anyone feeling sorry for me while I'm processing this thing, I got a minor in possession ticket. That minor in possession ticket then put my sorority on the block. I was in a sorority somehow, I don't know how, but my sorority on the block. So they all hated me because they couldn't go to parties that said fraternity anymore. And then even though I had a 4.0, I was on academic probation, and then I had to do all this like other stuff, go to addiction counseling, all these things, all because I was 19 years old and someone drugged my drink at a frat party and then raped me. And I didn't process it. Instead, I just took it. Right? No, it's okay. Other stuff's happened too, but I mean, it's okay. Like, I know that's like, sounds like dismissive, but truly it's okay. Like, I've dealt with it. I've dealt with how that felt. I've figured out why I brushed it under the rug. And when I was 25 years old when I finally processed it, because it had happened to me again by someone in the community that I was within, of the dance music community. I had a DJ that just took advantage of me. And I was like, no, this is not. And so I had to relive it and then relive another thing. And both times my parents were like, why didn't you go to the police? If it was really that big of a deal, why didn't you go to the police? Even the guy said that to me the second time. Why didn't you go to the police? If you really felt that way, why didn't you go to the police? Here's the deal. I think it was like 2000. It was early 2000s when the first one happened. And it was definitely like maybe a little after 2010, 11, 12 and some change. Who's going to believe me when I don't have the evidence? Who's going to want to file this report? Why? I didn't have the money. I'm in my 20s. I don't have money. Like, imagine being like an E1, E2. Well, that was basically me as a person in my 20s living in Denver on a freaking shitty salary for marketing, right? Like, I'm not, And also I felt damaged, right? Like, I felt damaged, like damaged goods. So I felt like I had zero value, like all these things. So it's been a process. So the point is that I can completely empathize. I appreciate your vulnerability. It's taken a lot for me through therapy to get to a place where I can even talk about it without being like peeved and steaming mad. But also, like, men, gross, period.
And I mean, it wasn't even just military. The first time I was molested, I was 5 years old by my next door neighbor. Mm-hmm. I was sexually assaulted when I was 16, and I did go to the police, and they didn't do shit about it. So of course that is going to affect me. Yeah. It's going to make me think, oh, I'm doing something wrong, or they didn't do anything wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, that's normal. It's like, I should have found it suspicious when the guy put me in the bathtub afterwards. Yeah. And I didn't realize until later it was to wash away physical evidence.
Yeah.
So the police couldn't do anything because there was no physical evidence. And yeah, in the military it happened. Well, I mean, there's sexual assault is sexual assault, but
it happens a lot, and
there's different levels.
Casual. Yeah.
So where like some experiences were not rape and
Mhm.
another one was. So I would say there would be three major instances. But even just on the daily basis of being a female in the military,
Yeah, I
that
was gonna say,
is
yeah.
stressful, especially in the early 2000s, and that was before there was a lot
There was
of
no
us.
protection, and
Or
there still isn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you came forward or made any kind of complaint, they just moved you.
Yeah.
You'd go to the chaplain, and some chaplains were great, others were not so much, but they would just move you somewhere else. Like I got moved from department to department, or just put on um or went had to go cranking again. I'm like, why am I going to ship's laundry?
Oh,
I
Scott
already did
hated
this last year.
cranking. Oh, he tells me all the time about how it was awful, the worst time of his
Yeah,
life.
it's like, yeah, I'm like, can't we just can't why can't we just deal with this? Like, can I have a therapist? Can I have something, please? Can there be some kind of accountability for what this guy did? And anything they can do to shut you up about it, I guess.
Were they superior to you?
Yes.
Of course they were. Oh, I'm gonna
In
punch the
in
Navy.
every in every instance. And
Which
I
is
was,
so fucked up.
mhm,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm married to one of the good ones, but
Yeah.
he's told me
Scott
some
is
things that
definitely one
he's
of the good
seen.
ones.
There's not, the thing is that they're there, but there's so many bad people in leadership. I don't care who is listening to this. If you do not believe that, you are absolutely wrong. I know so many females in the military, and like even Jackie right here, who was a veteran, and I've only just gotten recently to know her story, and even so, I believe her 1000%, because and this is what I tell people: when you're a female in the military, I respect the shit out of you. I don't care if you are an E1 or the lowest of the low. I don't care if you just barely made it through boot camp. I don't care if you're the highest of the highest up. I respect you, because and they just lowered the test to get into the military. So I mean, you can only imagine how much worse it's going to be.
You
So
mean for the ASVAB?
they lowered the score,
I
yeah,
but it was already like in like they were already letting
and they were
people
like,
in
"Whoop,
in the
go
50s,
lower, yep,
50s
go
and 60s,
lower."
down to like, whew.
Don't quote me on that. I think Scott could probably speak to it, but
Yeah, no, that's
um,
something I'm definitely gonna like look into, because I recently met a 17-year-old girl who really wants to join the Navy. And I'm like, I don't want to be a sea lawyer. I don't want to be one of those people that are going to tell you exactly like what it's going to be, because my experience is definitely going to be different
it's a
than
different time. But
hers, or
yeah, it's not a
it
good
is.
time to join. I'll be honest.
And so I really want to sit down with her and be like, these are my experiences, and this is what you can do to avoid those experiences. I want you
Mm-hmm.
to learn from me, learn from my mistakes, like talk to other female veterans about their experience
Yeah,
before you go into this,
I also,
because
yeah,
and there aren't a lot of advocates for that.
right.
I've noticed there aren't.
Would yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, there just are. I have not met a lot of female veterans who are taking steps to talk to young
Future,
women,
yeah.
yeah, to the future generation about joining the military and working with the military to make positive changes for women. There are some great organizations out there, but just
Mm,
one-on-one, like talking to these
yeah,
recruits that are going to be depth in. So anytime I meet a girl, or a young woman, or anyone, it doesn't even have to be, female, like
yeah,
the gender spectrum and everything, like anyone that identifies as a woman or is non-binary, everything,
yeah,
like I welcome them to talk to me about it. Or if I have a friend that has a daughter, or a non-binary child, and they are
right.
thinking about the military, I'm like, come let them talk to me. I'll tell them some of my experiences, and what they can do to prepare themselves emotionally and mentally, using my experience, what I went through in the military, and just so they have like an idea of what could happen.
Yeah,
And I feel like, because they don't talk so much about our experience as women in the
yeah,
military or female, all that, people go in blindly and they don't know.
exactly, exactly. And so this is interesting. Something you said is like, okay, here's what I'm going to say. My husband's almost got out, and I know that there's so much support for the veteran community, but there's zero support for the babies going in, right? You don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know, and if you don't have the means to go to college, you basically you see the military as an opportunity to get the fuck out of wherever you're from. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
applaud you
why do
if
you think
that's the
recruiters
case.
recruiters still target lower income schools and communities, because they do not have the resources due to, systemic racism, being kept at a poverty level. The military would not have a pool of people to pull from if they weren't kept in these situations. So some people would not even join the military if they knew that there were other options for them. If they
Exactly.
just
Or
could
they
get
knew they
that
could do
step up, if
ROTC,
they
or
could,
they could do, yeah, exactly.
yeah, if they could get that step up. Like if the military is something you really want to do and you're passionate about it, do it. But don't be like me and go in because you just want to pay for college, or you're looking for A, B, or C, like, and you're not really wanting to serve your country. If you want to serve your country, do it. I will not tell you that that's a
Oh
bad
yeah.
idea
Yeah.
if that's something you want to do. But if you're going in to fulfill something else and the military is sort of the last resort for it, there are resources and other things that you can
Hmm.
look into. So, and because
Yeah.
my situation was, I was living on my own at 16. My family moved
Right.
out to Missouri. So I lived on my own at 16. I graduated high school and I didn't have enough money or any kind of financial support. I didn't qualify for student aid or any of that stuff. And I didn't want to go into debt with student loans.
Right.
Yay me. I dodged that bullet. And I'm like, I guess I'll just join the military for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so, and then I get out, I use my post 9/11 GI Bill to pay for college, get like a degree in communication, and then the VA slaps me with unemployability because of anxiety and
Oh,
stuff. So
damn it.
at least,
Fucking cannot catch a
like,
break.
I know, right? It's like I did all this for what? For what? But I'm glad that I have I'm glad that I do get the 100%.
Right.
So I'm free to pursue the passions that I have, like art
Yeah.
and illustration,
Yeah.
and I'm free to be myself. So I count myself extremely lucky.
Yeah, I would say so too. And I mean, like, I'm definitely looking at a person who's on a healing journey and like who has so much strength and probably maybe didn't have that strength a while ago, but now you kind of know what your voice is and where your passions lie. When I hear you speak, I in my head immediately go, wait, there's not resources for that. There should be. There should be resources from the female veteran perspective, or especially for young women. Why is there not? Even okay, I know I'm just a spouse, and they say, okay, well, you serve too, and I'm like, I
You're
know that
not
depend
just
of
a
shit,
spouse.
but I've done
You're
a
not
bunch
just
of
a
stuff for
spouse.
but I've done a bunch of stuff for FRG, MWR. I've worked for Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. I mean, I've done a bunch of stuff, right? And my thing is, if you don't treat veterans or people in the military with any fucking respect, like United Airlines flight 253 on Sunday 121, I'm still mad at you. Please contact me. I bet you by the time this releases, they still will not have contacted me. I'll get back to that in a second, but I'm saying, like, we as women, especially as women in this military community, we are constantly seeking validation and community within each other. And I don't want to disclude any spouses who are males, because obviously you guys serve too, got it. But like, the point is that women, we kind of try to come together in these communities and in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes it's not enough that your partners in the Army, or your partners in the Navy, or whatever. There's different tracks. There's people who literally, and at least in my community, I hate to say it, give up on life and go, okay, oh yeah, you want to do that? That's fine. And then there's me, who literally hates that I have zero control, but is using my voice to do something about it. So there's always
Yeah.
there's the two types of people who serve, of course. And of course, it's not linear, it's not absolute, but that's just my opinion. Those who want to serve and keep serving and helping because they realize the pain and the agony that all the other people below them are. Because my husband was enlisted prior to becoming an officer, so I know his things, his career, his story. I met him on his second duty tour off of OCS. I'm sure you never imagined he would have.
I mean, when I met him and knew him and like we were deployed and stuff like that and geeking out about all sorts of stuff, like I think he mentioned something about wanting to get his degree and or not get his degree, but like try to go a little further. And I was like, oh well, why don't you be a Mustang? Uh
Yeah.
and and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that, but that was a long time
He
ago.
was actually getting
Um
out, and then he commissioned. Yeah.
Before I
So
forget, so you were talking about or I just want to know, have you ever, I know you're on TikTok, but have you seen Patrick Lawler's videos about his
mm.
experience?
Oh,
Every time I see, yeah, definitely look at Patrick Lawler. He's a content creator. He's an aspiring comedian.
Wait, it's not this
And
guy that has a beard that looks like he's about to eat Ronald
no, no,
McDonald, is it?
Patrick Lawler,
L
Lo.
L
Yeah,
O.
Patrick Lawler, and also Dusty from Vision Video. They're both veterans, and they use art and comedy
I
to.
can't find it, so you'll have to send it to me offline.
Oh yeah, I'll send you a link. His stuff is great. I've posted his videos on my Facebook timeline. And also Dusty Gannon. He's down near Atlanta.
Okay.
Firefighter. He's a medic. Amazing guy. And the artist community, the veteran artist community is incredible. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying not to like
Oh, don't
F-bomb
go.
your podcast.
Yeah, you're no. You can fuck. Who cares? So
All right.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
putting it as I have to put it as explicit anyway. And to my listeners, of course, none of this is a medical diagnosis, and none of this is.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry that I didn't put trigger warnings on this. But I will when we put this out. Just so people don't come for me and be little snowflakes. But anyway, sorry. But so I'm on TikTok, but I'm on the weird side of TikTok where
Oh yeah.
I've
seen your
I'm in the
stuff.
biscuit, and there's a lot of veteran women in the biscuit. So on Taste the Biscuit TikTok, I've met a lot of veterans through it who feel comfortable talking to me because they know that I am a military spouse, and they're like, I got out, or I was married to this Marine, or I was doing this was this, and so there's been a lot of interesting information with it. Yeah, I'm careful about posting about military stuff because everyone loves to come and go, oh, Jody, Dependa. I'm like, shut the fuck up. My husband's on short ed. Like,
Yeah.
go away. Also, if I was going to cheat on my spouse, it would have happened after I was literally alone for over a year, and it didn't happen. So I guess I'm just stuck with him.
You guys have a solid relationship.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't even
Yeah, we
need
do.
to cheat. You guys,
Oh,
you guys could just go.
yeah.
You guys could just be poly.
No, no, we're very monogamous as people, but yeah. So, but it's just fun. It's just funny. It's just funny to like. It's the military is just it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's not really what makes you, huh?
And Scott is he's a part of that community too. He's a part of it because he's a photographer. I would consider.
Yeah, he's
I know he hasn't in a while.
Yeah, he kind of fell out of it. I mean, like as ADHD people, we have hyper focuses, correct? So like for instance, like when I started. When the pandemic happened, I got really into making like hair bows for girls and my neighbors and all of that. And I would just never charge. I would just give them away. And then I was like, and I just put it in the closet. And it's funny because I actually just pulled the fabric out to my friends that I introduced you to, Jake and Ella. They're getting a puppy soon. Oh, sorry if it's a spoiler for people, but they're getting a puppy soon. Same dog as mine, Cavalier King Charles. They already have one named Indigo, and they're getting another one. And they've never had a male Cavalier. So I have all these little baby clothes for Bourdain when he was a little baby puppy. And so I'm getting this care package ready to send, but also Ella likes to make bows for dogs and like ribbons. And I have all this ribbon. So I was like, okay, I'm going to cut you like a yard and cut you a yard. And I met them through TikTok, right? Never met them in person, met them through TikTok. I've been with them through through Jake being a different name. I've been with them since Jake's top surgery was on my birthday in 2021. Ella is amazing too. And they're trying to figure out imposter syndrome, what it means to be in the queer community when she's pansexual and Jake is now a trans man. Like, what does that mean? And so that's why I introduced you to them, because I thought you would get along really well. And Jake's anniversary is coming up. Jake has almost been a man for 1 year on T for about 6 months. I want to say almost a year. So to Jake and Ella, you guys are family to us. We love you. Anyway, back to our conversation. Yeah. So that's the point, is like, I'm like, here, I have all this ribbon. Like, here you go, throw it in a box. But that's just kind of funny because like I've tried so many different creative things, and I know you kind of are now dabbling and feeling unbridled in your creativity. So I guess my question would be like, where do you find imposter syndrome in your life right now?
So I think my imposter syndrome kind of stems from rejection sensitivity. So the RSD thing.
Yeah.
So the whole fear of rejection, not being good enough, and then you internalize that, and you start to trick yourself into thinking that you're not good enough, so that you can avoid getting into situations where rejection will even happen. And when you do that enough, it starts to hardwire it into your brain. Like when it comes to like my fire dancing and some of the modeling and stuff that I do, like I've been programmed also as a woman to basically be not good enough no matter what. So a lot of it stems from that, but I'm finally getting to a point in my life where I am going to be unabashedly myself. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be genuine. But those feelings of not being good enough or being an imposter, like I'm not going to be a
Yeah.
successful artist. Like no one's going to buy my stuff. I see all this other amazing art
Yeah.
online. Like they're so much better than me. I shouldn't even try. But I'm like, you know what? Life is short, and I really want to enjoy my life while I have it. And
Yeah.
it's a and it I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna be brave and I'm just gonna do it.
Well,
I'm fighting that imposter syndrome, but I'm gonna do it.
yeah. I mean, like, first of all, I mean, if you need a compliment, here comes the compliment train. Choo, 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 choo. Your art's amazing. You remind me so much of Christina Ayers, my tattoo artist. We'll get into tattooing in a second, because that's something we mentioned before we press record.
Yeah.
I would be your best friend in a heartbeat. I get along with weirdos and fellow weirdos. Oh, she rolled away.
I was just closing the door because my adorable little Pomeranian, who is my migraine alert dog, she's barking her little head off outside, and I
For
didn't want the
grandma
microphone to
seizures?
pick that up.
For grandma, like,
No, for migraines.
oh, migraines, grandma migraines. I was like, my grandma seizures. Oh, geez. Yeah, my dog is we started psych training him, but he's funny. He's just like laying down.
Some dogs take it. Like she picked it
he's
up
good.
as a puppy.
Yeah, he's good. He actually knows how to do it. I just have to get back into it. But I don't know. I don't know. Having a mental breakdown in 2021, moving and all the change. To go back to change, right? Like I, as an ADHD person, I have a really hard time with rejection sensitivity dysphoria as well. There's not a lot that says in the whole DSMV and medication and all of that. There's been studies, but there's not much to say to it. But women are especially more sensitive than men especially if they're neurodivergent, when they get rejected. And what I mean by get rejected is I had a person stop me through a podcast interview and say, not one time have you asked me a single question about myself. And you combine that with a medical malpractice overdose, which had happened to me, all of the change of moving from an island, my husband coming back from a deployment, all of this, that, and the other. I went into the deepest depression I've ever been in my entire life, and I hadn't touched my podcast for over a year. It's no one's fault. It's no one's fault, right?
Well,
but at the same time,
this person should have been like, was it this podcast about was it
they had created a movie.
syndrome?
They had created a movie that I was relating to. They had asked me to watch the movie, and I felt very honored that they wanted me to watch the movie. I watched the movie. I was relating to them. I had recently figured out that I'm queer, right? And I'm trying to relate to them and their stuff. And he said, I'm at my wit's end and you're not listening to me and this kind of thing. And I just was like, oh, and it hurt because I was like, I know I'm a good I know I'm good at listening. It just wasn't a match. It was like, oh, you've never listened. So now I'm very careful before I put someone on. I don't chase. If I ask you to be on it and I give you my link and then you screw up or you decide to wait on it, I don't really care anymore. I'm not going to chase you. I know my value and my worth, and I know what this podcast is for. And this podcast is for mostly queer women, neurodivergent men, and queer men. It's not really, and my BIPOC friends. It's not really for anyone that's not a little bit off the cuff weird. So I've told millions of people, well, not millions of people. I've told a lot of people, life coaches, I've done it. Are you interesting as a life coach? Oh, you just decided that's what you're oh, you do SEO marketing? Okay, me too. I don't, you have to have an angle. And if you give me a pitch that makes no sense, I don't want your story. And that has to be where I'm at. Unfortunately, please don't kick me out. I know I have that privilege and that power, but it's also one of those things where it's not everyone's meant to be a podcast guest. I know it's about imposter syndrome, but not everyone's meant to be a podcast guest. If you want to share your story, I want to give you that platform, that space. But Yeah, no, it wasn't a match, and it was just like really bad timing, and it hurt. And
Oh,
I would just mull it over in my head over and over and over and over again. You don't listen, you're not good enough, you always talk over people, blah blah blah. And one, I was wildly on the wrong dosage of the medication. Two, I was probably a little too new to, I was getting into a new therapist, that therapy didn't work out. And it was moving, and it's hard when you have to find, especially as a military person, you have to find, well, I'm not military person, but military spouse, you have to find all new doctors. You have to find all people who will pick up your last diagnoses and be sympathetic and then refill your prescriptions. And that's really fucking hard. Like,
yeah, it is.
it
I'm
is.
going through that as we speak.
Right. So you get it. So it's like,
Yeah.
if anything, you probably understand it more than the average person would. It's like, it's hard, and it's not fun, and there's no easy way, and no one prepares you. So when someone just recently moved here and was like, reached out to me on TikTok about places, I don't know how I popped in her FYP, but she reached out to me and she's like, hey, our sponsor out here, I think, has been giving us the wrong information. We're really scared to move. Like, what do you think? And I live on Oahu, and spoiler alert, I'm a white person. Like, I'm off shade Casper. I'm aware of that. But because of all of the work on inclusion, diversity, and diversity and all that, like, that I do, and this is a platform for it, I learn everything there is to learn about an injustice or a medical diagnosis or whatever, because I don't want to give the wrong information. While I'm not a professional, I can always try and be my best, because, like, as a white person, you have the opportunity to educate yourself and also others, so that Native people of Hawaii don't have to feel fatigued, so that the local Kama'aini people of Hawaii don't have to feel fatigued, and so that we don't make the same mistakes and continue to devastate a state that we shouldn't be on, quite frankly. So so she reached out to me and wanted to know, like, how to be and I was just like, I've lived here for 2 years almost. The first year and a half, I hated it. And then we moved to base housing because our landlord raised our rent. And my life completely changed. Like, just things got better because suddenly I had community, because it is a very tough thing. And you've lived in Osaka, right? So you know how isolating that can feel.
Yeah, especially being the other.
Yep, being the other. And I encourage people, if you're a white person, go somewhere where you are in a minority. Absolutely. To the point, be it Miami, be it New York City, be it Hawaii, and live somewhere or be somewhere where you are the only white person. And I'm telling you right now, it'll humble the shit out of you.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times living in Japan I got called mendokusai gaijin, like troublesome foreigner. That just being called gaijin in general, like, the word means foreigner, it means outsider. Like, it doesn't matter how perfect my Japanese is, it doesn't matter if I can, match their beauty standards, if I can do everything, I'm always going to be different because I am not ethnically Japanese.
Exactly, and they're very outsiders focused.
Yeah, it's a very ethnocentric. Is that the word, ethnocentric? Homogenous.
Oh yeah, got you.
Yeah, it's a very homogenous or homogeneous, however you want to say it, society. So over the years, it is getting better. But there are still times when I will go on the train in Japan. Like, when I'm in Japan, I'll go on the train and someone will get up and move away from me. Or I'll walk into a store and the person working automatically goes like, no English, no English. And it's like, daijoubu nihongo hanashimasu. And like, sometimes they can't really believe it, like, because I don't match what's coming out of my mouth.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So they have like this interior what's it called, like this panic, their brain doesn't know how to process it,
of course, because they see white and they go, oh, don't know, we didn't know.
No English, no English. And then it's like, no, I speak Japanese, it's fine. And sometimes they just get a wash of relief and they love it and they think it's amazing, and then other people, they still can't get through that they still can't get through that mental block. And a lot of that is with the older generation too, which I can understand. It's the older folks, the newer generations in Japan, freaking way more accepting. Like, I loved talking to teenagers and stuff while being in Japan. They just thought it was so cool that they were like, oh, it's really awesome that you're here and we're so happy to have you. Like incredibly accepting, like, oh, let's go take you and dress you up in kimono, or you got let's go do this. We want to show all this
Yeah.
to you. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think that as a white person moving or even spending
Yeah.
more than a week in a place where you are the minority can be
Blend
absolutely,
in. It's really the best
yeah,
advice. Like try and blend in. Like
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
want to
good
be
luck.
the tourist, you know. Well, I mean, as much as you
Yeah,
can, right? Do your research, right?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, but you're going to stand out like a sore thumb as a foreigner in a predominantly Asian country, or a country that has like that are mostly people of color.
mhm.
You are going to stand out no matter what. Go ahead and try to blend in. See what
Well, no, that's the
like.
point. Yeah, that's the point. So like as a person who has white skin, I know I have privilege that I did not earn. And I know that
Mhm.
about me, especially as a cisgendered looking white woman, right? White woman or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like I have this inherent, like I pass as a straight white person, which is fine, right? Like, but I know this about me to be true, and I know that those are inherent privileges that I have. And so if I don't do the educational work as who I am and what I use this podcast for, then there's just no point in doing it. And so on that same vein, Jackie, I feel I have to code switch the second I get on a flight back to Hawaii.
you get
So, oh
really good
yeah,
at code switching in the military too.
you have to, because you're like, just take me seriously, please. And
Yep.
so I found myself code switch, put on my husband's OCS shirt, and sit down in the chair, and just the flight was awful. I don't even want to talk about it because it was not worth time. But the fact is that
Yeah.
I basically, and even so far as like Hawaii, like most people, English is not the first language, of course, but I speak in my head, I can actually understand a lot of Hawaiian words, native Hawaiian language. It's very beautiful language. I try not
Hmm.
to speak pidgin. I try to be as respectful as possible, but sometimes,
Is pigeon still used?
oh
Pretty
yeah, yeah, a little
okay.
bit. I mean, like, well, yeah.
I have a couple books in pigeon and they're really interesting.
Yeah, well, pigeons. You don't want to be okay. So if you're coming to the Hawaii, like, don't immediately go brada,
Oh yeah, no.
like,
Yeah, no, no, no.
like, don't do that. But also like, there is a respectful way to be, a person, and just casually put Hawaiian words in, like honu for turtle, or mahalo nui, like thank you very much, or mahalo for your kukua, which means your cooperation or participation. And I found myself doing that, but I also feel comfortable enough to do that now because I have friends that are local, kama'aina. And
Hmm.
also, again, I always say this in every podcast episode, Hawaiian means native. It means native Hawaiian, right? Born from Hawaii. And
Hmm.
so kama'aina means local. And so just always know that if you say something's Hawaiian, you are assuming that that person was born from the islands, which there's a lot of transplants here. So that's all I'll say. That's my soapbox. But anyway, point is, I feel like on a smaller scale, if I go into a business and I go, hey, how's it? Right? Hey, how's it, Bretta? Hey, how's it, sister? Hey, auntie. Like, and I feel more comfortable doing that now, but I did not feel comfortable doing that a year ago. I was like, hey, hi, oh, thank you, mahalo. And then I'd like walk out. Now I'm like, whatever, fuck it. Like if a guy cuts me in line, I'm like, hey, sir, like back in the line, brah.
Yep.
Like I don't care anymore. And it's a weird shift that whenever that happens. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. And it's definitely like, it does go into my imposter syndrome a little bit. But I'm like, what's the worst that they're gonna do? Call me a derogatory word, a howly? Yeah, I am one. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to teach people how to not be dicks on your island. And I'm leaving as soon as the military says, hey, yo, Womenx, get off the island. I'd be like, got it. Peace out,
Are you going back
dudes.
to
Peace
you
out,
going back to
dudes.
San Diego?
Oh, I hope so. We own our house there.
Oh yeah,
I'd
that's
love to
right.
go there. That'd be great to go there. I got a guest room. I mean, it's great to go there.
Yeah, I'm because I'm still staffing Comic-Con, like San Diego Comic-Con International. I'm
Oh,
still
you
doing a lot
are?
of events and
Cool.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll be down there. I fly down there fairly often, either to visit friends, family in Orange County, that kind of thing, or I just road trip it. I love driving long distances,
Did
pop
you
in a podcast,
know?
audiobooks. I'm down there. I go down there a lot. I'd love to visit when you guys get
So
back.
Scott and I, he had a sailor that volunteered for Comic-Con. So we got to volunteer, and I got to go to Comic-Con for volunteering for like hour. And I went and I was so overwhelmed because this is pre me knowing I have anxiety and I can't handle big crowds.
It's a
And
lot.
this is pre-pandemic, right? So you add the pandemic on top of it. I was like, wow, this is a lot. It's a lot. And it's just nerds, but it's not my kind of nerds. Cause I went to DragCon. Okay. That's my bread and butter. It's like Comic-Con, but gay.
Yeah, I would not jump in. I would not jump in if you're interested in attending events like that, or general geeky events, nerdy events involving film, comics, fantasy, games, all that stuff. I would not recommend Comic-Con as like the first one you go to. Like, definitely do some smaller
I went to
some
Pensacon.
conventions.
I got to hug Joey
Which one?
Fatone. Pensacola
Oh,
Con.
Pensacon. Yeah. Pensacola,
Yeah, I went there.
So-
I actually, funny enough, Jason Marsden's been on the podcast, and I have a joke, but I kicked Jason Marsden out of the way to hug Joey Fatone, which is very funny. It's a very funny joke and point of fact to me.
Oh,
So we're getting
yeah, we'd have to do like another talk about our experiences and stuff like that at conventions, because I could talk about that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can always do, like, especially as it gets closer, if you want to promote something, a bonus episode, but that's a sidebar. So we're already getting into kind of, I think, do you have anything more you'd like to say about imposter syndrome, or do you feel like the topic's completely covered?
I think when it comes to imposter syndrome, I think it's something that's always going to be there for me. Like, it's just something that is ingrained. But I think I'm strong enough at this point, and I'm introspective enough that I can get through it. I can fight it, and it's not going to get in my way.
Yeah.
Especially with me finding myself, finding my voice, being like, I don't fit the beauty standards. I'm still good looking. I'm gonna model. I don't care.
Hell yeah.
There's always gonna be that voice in the back of
I'm
my
built
head,
like Bobby Hill, and I'm into it.
Like, they're like, you're too big, you're too old, you don't fit this, like that whole, you're not good enough.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Yeah, that's why
exactly. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Watch me.
This makes me feel powerful. This makes me feel beautiful and confident. I'm gonna do it. As long as it keeps making me feel that way, I'm gonna do it.
And I wonder if those people are actually saying that, or if it's your internal shoulder devils telling you those things. Because I mean, no one's brave enough to say that shit unless they're a keyboard warrior. And even so, they probably got an anonymous photo. But no, I love that, and keep battling.
I don't think it's people like saying it. It's being inundated constantly with societal standards of beauty. And like, I see a girl on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm like, I wish I looked like that, and I'm never gonna look like that. And you see those views and stuff, and that's part of the toxic social media cycle too. Like, you don't have to be perfect, and I'm trying to come to terms, like, what is perfection, what is normal. And that whole imposter syndrome comes in, and like, oh, you're never going to be pretty enough, your boobs aren't going to be big enough, like, your waist isn't going to be small enough. I'm getting to a point where I really don't care anymore what people actually think, as long as it makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't hurt anyone else. It doesn't hurt anyone else. And it makes me feel amazing. So I'm gonna do it.
I love that. And the last thing I'll share before we go into fanaticals is, like, similar to you, I'm on the same journey of, like, self-love, self-care. That's my 2023 mantra, especially with all of this stuff related to anxiety going into, like, my pooper shooter.
I'm here for it.
Wonky wavy, wacky wavy, inflated tube band.
I'm in your corner. I got you.
So a lot of my listeners don't know this. I'm going to share something very vulnerable. I have suffered from bulimia since I was 18 years old, off and on. And that's very comorbid with having a parent that just kind of always is up your asshole and around the corner, telling you how to live your life and that your body's not good enough. Has my husband ever told me that? Not a single time. No. So I have, I've gone through the dental work of it. I've gone through the cardiovascular work of it. I've tried everything to combat it. And I'll tell you right now that the only thing that's ever stopped me from stepping on that scale every single day and all of this is what's going on medically with me. And I don't think it'll ever impact me again. And I'm going to tell you that it should not have taken, because who knows if this is internal damage from all of the throwing up and all of the laxative use or whatever I used to do. I don't know. But all I'm going to tell you right now is, if this is how it feels every single day to not love yourself, then I don't want to live like this. And
Yeah.
if this is the product of, I'm 18, I was 18, I'm now 30. I mean, eating disorder started way before I was 18. I remember being 10 years old and my mom telling me to lose weight, and I put it on my like little card in 5th grade, and my teacher was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I had
yeah.
mine stemmed because I had a previous partner who had an unhealthy obsession with online adult content to the point where they didn't find me attractive anymore.
That's a them problem.
Yeah, and
Enjoy your porn, bucko.
I gave them 2 years, and they constantly criticized me on my body. Oh, you should get a boob job. You should be thinner. This blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm in the military. I have to eat like this much food. I have to have this kind of energy. I'm not going to be able to look like Pamela Anderson. I'm sorry. Um, and after 2 years of that, I couldn't handle being married to someone that didn't want to touch me.
I'm
You
sorry
know,
that happened to you. That's fucked up.
that was never gonna I was never going to meet their standard,
I
and they
dated people
didn't
like
want to
that.
change.
Yeah. I dated people
And
like that. Yeah. Ugh.
yeah, so that's going through that, and the pain, like, and the self-hatred that I had from that about my body and the way that I looked took years for me
Oh
to
yeah. It
unpack.
really
And I
does.
still unpack it to this day. You know,
Yeah.
to this day I still struggle from that because I was with this person for 5 years. I hope they're doing well. Um,
It's fine if they're not.
I
It's
hope
fine
they
if they're
found their
not.
supermodel. Uh, no. I want everyone. I don't do that.
I don't
Uh,
wish ill will on my exes, of course, but I mean,
but karma's a thing.
there's someone else's I mean, I'm probably, I have a saying that I'm probably the worst thing that ever happened to a lot of people because I was not healed. And so I just like,
Yeah,
I was just like Tasmanian devil, just like
that's
ruining
great though
lives.
that you see that. That's great that you see that
Well, I
because
mean, that's all I
I
can,
struggle
because
with that
if I
too.
sit there and I sit there and I think about where I was at and what was happening in my life at that time and how sad and miserable I was, then I probably will just pass away. So I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to like look at it like, okay, I wasn't healed. You were clearly not healed. We were two not healed people. I mean, Scott is the best accident that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So
So same with Luke. It was literally just a couple months after my divorce, and Luke came into my life, and I was like, I just got out of a really gnarly situation. I need some time. And I'm like, can we just be friends? And he's like, well, with the way that I feel about you, it would be too painful for me to just be friends. And I was like, oh, okay.
you're like,
So
huh,
you're
okay.
I'm like, huh, let me rethink this. And I'm like, am I ever going to find anyone that's a better match for me?
No.
Like, even though at the time I wasn't like, head over heels, butterflies, passionately in love, I was like, you know what? Love is something you work for, and it's something you put energy into.
But you knew they were
And
special.
yeah, and we make a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
And he has been just the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like,
Yeah.
dude should be a therapist. He's a teacher, but he should be a therapist.
He's a teacher.
um,
I love
I
that.
know,
So is that
I
what brought you
know,
guys
he's
up?
so great.
Is that what brought you guys up north, or?
No, so so Luke's family owns property up in Bishop, and that's why we were
Okay.
living up there for 10 years. And it was incredibly isolating, very toxic, awful community for
Sounds
us.
like it. His name's
And
Bishop.
oh, yeah, it was awful. Like, I had very few friends. The temperatures were extreme, both in the winter and the
Oh,
summer,
of
the
course, I
dryness,
bet.
the migraines, living at altitude, all that stuff.
I've been to
And
that
then,
area, so I know where it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Ugh.
and it's beautiful, but living there is just
Mm-mm.
insane. And it got to the point where I'm like, this is really bad for me, both physical and mentally. We need to move. And if we're going to buy a house, it has to be now because interest rates are starting to go up. So I just pretty much threw a dart at a map, and I'm like, Pacific Northwest, let's do it. And I think it's one of the best decisions we've ever made.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. We already have a solid friend group from people I've known from Wasteland Weekend and Comic-Con and stuff that live up here, have moved up here. There's a lot to do that are in our special interests with
Yeah.
games and comics and art, and there's so much to do, and we love it so much. And I know we've only been here since September, but it really feels like home.
Yeah.
And
No, I love that. Well, welcome
so
home.
that's why we came up here, was and we couldn't afford California. We can't pay $600,000, $700,000 for a
We got
2 bedroom house.
lucky
Like,
with our house, but I mean, even so, I sound like such an asshole when I say that, but like, I mean, we got lucky. Like we bought the
we got
right
lucky up here
time.
too.
Yeah, exactly. You bought the right time with the right interest
Hmm.
rate right before the rates went back up. And then we
Yep.
refinanced, and I was a marketing director for a title and escrow company, which was like, if it hadn't been like that, plus my realtor Ehab, who is family, love him to death. Him going to bat for us and being like, this property doesn't exist on a map and it's been here for 9 years. Like, you're gonna pay your back taxes before they close. We wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
Perfect. But
Oh
yeah.
man, the VA loan benefit. I would not have been able to buy a house without the VA. Without the VA loan.
I mean, so
Like,
many people can't, and so many people do it stupidly too. Like out here, people should not be. I'm sorry, if you're military, you should not be buying in Hawaii. I don't care who you are, unless you're Native Hawaiian. Do not buy out here.
yep.
You are an
I don't think
asshole
anyone should
if
buy
you
unless you're
do.
native.
Exactly.
No one should buy in Hawaii unless you're
no
native.
one, not a single person.
You're not entitled to that land.
Yeah, that's probably an unpopular opinion. So fanaticals, I think you kind of mentioned art and that kind of stuff. Let's talk about unpopular opinions, I guess.
Oh, I was gonna say, because you were talking about on episodes like snacks and stuff that you were like really into. I just rediscovered chili cheese Fritos.
Wait. Oh yes, chili cheese Fritos.
I haven't had them in years, and I was like, you know what? Because I mean, I had a few
I can
drinks with some
taste
friends
them
and we
right
walked
now.
out. Right?
I know. Oh.
And I haven't had them in so long, and they have so much MSG in them. They're so good and addictive.
Oh, that's an unpopular opinion. MSG is not bad for you.
It's
It's
not
a
bad for
racist
you.
thing.
It
Fun
is
fact.
like racist against Chinese food places back in like the 50s and 60s.
Absolutely.
Like,
oh, we have a
same with low fat. Low fat is bullshit.
Oh yeah, we have. My mom was an almond princess. Okay, so we have like we have a MSG on our fridge, and I used my label maker, and it's called Flavor Town. So if you ever come to my house and you're like, "What's that?" It's MSG. Hi.
I got the little panda shaker bottle for Ajinomoto.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, Ajinomoto, the MSG that you get. And I just keep refilling that little shaker, and it's right next to my stove. And I'm like, oh, we're making scrambled eggs. All right, let's throw some MSG on there.
Yeah. So you and I were talking to this morning about Don Quixote's, which is a Japanese chain that I happen to live next to, which everyone shits on Don Quixote's out here in Hawaii because it's so gross. I'm like, no. I mean, it is. Have you ever bought? If you do some digging, you can find like makeup for $1. Like, it's great.
Yeah, you can buy chicken cutlets and sushi and makeup and contacts and
tissues
onesies,
and toilet
like,
paper.
Everything.
Hello Kitty.
It's completely chaotic, and I love it. And no matter what you're looking for, they have it.
They had this yesterday. I went there. I'm not allowed to go there unmedicated. I'm also not allowed to go there without a shopping list. Scott said I got an E for effort. He said, please bring home beer. I got a 4 6-packs of Orion, which is the beer. It's a beer. Japanese beer. It's a really good beer. And for $34.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. And it's usually pretty expensive to buy a 6-pack of it. So I bought it in this little suitcase thing. And then of course, like the kid at the register is like, do you need a trolley? And the locals in front of me are like, do you need a trolley? I'm like, oh shoot. Yeah, I guess. Cause I'm like kicking it towards the register. Like,
oh no, I'd be one of those people that's like, hell no.
Well, I had the basket, and the basket was full. Cause I went there to get sour cream and something for dinner, like to help out with dinner and stuff. So I was at Don Q's. Oh, speaking of Don Q's, you'll know this. Okay. I have, it's an audio medium. If you're just listening,
do they play the jingle? Oh my gosh. I need one. I might have to have you send me one.
I'll send you one. I can send you one.
Yes. Because the Don Quixotes or the Donkey here it's through it, they call it Tokyo Central. They bought out most of the Marukai markets on the West Coast, and they turned them into Tokyo Central, owned by Don Quixote. It's exactly the same as if you go to a Donkey in Hawaii or in Japan, but it's just called Tokyo Central.
Yeah,
but
it's my favorite grocery
like
store.
Don Quixote. They don't have Don Quixote merch.
So I don't have my purse right on me, but I'll text you a photo of it. I bought it just in case, like the reusable bags right now are like, you have to have them. 99 cents. It's got a little penguin on it. I'll send you like a little Don Q package because like it's all the merch. Yeah, of course.
I would love that. Do they play the same jingle in the Hawaiian store they do in Japan, the one that goes dun 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 Don Quixote. Do they play that?
If they do, I don't know because I have my headphones in trying not to panic.
Oh, I'm
But
sometimes just in the shower and that jingle starts playing in my head.
so for my listeners, if you're not familiar, Don Quixote's is a Japanese chain. If you're also not familiar, H Mart is right next door in Pearl City where I live. And it is my favorite store. H Mart is also a favorite of mine, but H Mart just so they just opened an H Mart next to Don Q. And everyone's like, oh shoot, the Don Q is gonna close. I'm like, hell no, I'll keep Don Q in business.
Well, you'll have one waiting for you when you go back to San Diego. You have one waiting for you. It's just called Tokyo Central.
Oh
instead.
yeah. Is that on Convoy or where is that?
Yeah, it's over in Kearny Mesa there's like the Ranch 99 and there's Mitsuwa,
Oh, okay, yeah.
That whole area. There's like the San Rose store. It's all right there. It's just catty corner from Tajima.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because of actually, believe it or not, Convoy Street just got like a new H Mart as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Which they had a Mr. Cow. Well, they had Mr. Cow. Well, see, that's the thing out here is like I'm so used to. So people are always like, "What do you?" Well, I went mainland, and my friends like, "Well, what are you missing? Like, what do you want?" Like I was in Florida, and I'm like, I want a Cubano, I want a coffee, and I want.
But you have Kona. You have Kona coffee there. You have Kona.
Oh
coffee.
Yeah, here I'll send you coffee. I got you.
Freaking Lion coffee is so good.
Do you like coffee, like really nice coffee? Because I can send you your family, so we can send you the coffee, the green coffee farm coffee.
Ooh, you're speaking my love language.
Oh, I got you, Queen. Don't even worry about it.
Oh,
anyway,
oh my gosh, and macadamia.
All I tell people is you pay shipping, I pay gifties.
My PayPal is ready.
Perfect. All right, so unpopular opinion, I think we went through them. Now we're gonna go into Muppets. Muppets.
Oh no.
Don't sue me. All right, so we're getting sued. If you could pick one Muppet to describe you, and of course it could be Sesame Street, it could be anything under the Jim Henson branch, anything you stick your hand up or move around. What would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
it can be a mix. Hard. I tell people too.
Okay, it has to be a mix because with anxiety and stuff like that, of course you're gonna have some kinship with Beaker there.
Yep.
And just that and like the communication stuff like that. But also Animal, when you go into those manic episodes and you get really motivated, like to the point where you're just tunnel vision on one thing, like Animal does. Like I love Animal. I like Beaker. I think I like Beaker the most. Like he's pretty awesome. I also have a love for Ralph, and he's very underappreciated.
Oh, Ralph, he's so underappreciated.
He's so underappreciated. I love Ralph so much. Like he's a puppy and he's a cute dog, and I don't know. I love Ralph.
Same with Sweetums. Sweetums doesn't get enough love.
Sweetums is definitely underrated for sure. But yeah I would say Beaker and Ralph.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
You had another Muppet question you usually do, yeah?
Oh yeah, no, if you're gonna sleep with one Muppet, who is it?
Oh God. Yeah, that was it. I was like, wait.
I saw it on TikTok. I thought it was hilarious, and I don't prompt people because but I'm also feeling it out. If someone's not gonna be able to be open and honest about like, I don't know, stuff, then I'm like, I'm not gonna ask you. But yeah, so this question just cracks me up. Okay, so but I mean, you can have if you wanna have sex with the whole Muppet band. Hats off, man. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, no.
I've gotten a bunch of funny answers too.
Who's the girl? That's
Janice.
Who's the blonde girl?
Janice.
That's in the Muppet band. Yes.
She's down.
Janice, 100%.
She'll let you do whatever.
She can get it. Yeah. Janice can get it.
Janice, like in another okay, so like this was like not the 70s when the Muppets came out, and it was the 90s. Janice would work at Hooters.
Yeah. 1,000%.
For sure.
Did you hear their like Hooters is either getting like a big rebrand or closing down altogether because millennials don't like boobs anymore?
Yeah, they're butt people. Tina Belcher.
Let's just make goth Hooters.
They should. Well, okay. So I think it's funny that there's another restaurant that's competitorry that's called Twin Peaks. I think that they're owned by the same company of Hooters, and Twin Peaks is like not the show from the 90s. And I had a friend
Yeah.
that like went there and was like, "Oh, this is not what I thought." I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh, this is not what I thought
Twin
it was.
Peaks."
Ah,
But I mean, I mean, to me, I
euphemism.
think it should be about the show. I mean, I love that show.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for anything weird and obscure. There's just not enough stuff out there, but I also feel like we're running away from like just I don't know. I feel like I can't like Scott's had some people that have like tried to be his friend. They're like, well, let's go to the strip club. And he's like, I could think of something I would want to do less in my life than I couldn't even tell you.
You know what? Respect the
Respect for
people that
sex
do that
workers, yeah.
though. Like sex work is work. I mean, have you tried to pole dance?
My friend Andrea does it all the time. She's like, she wants me to do it with her. I'm like, you
Oh
got
my
more
God,
muscle than me, girl. I don't know how I'm gonna
it
do
is
it.
so hard.
I'm gonna try it. I do want to try it. It's like, I'm
I would go, I'd
also,
be down to go
yeah.
to a strip club just to like be like, oh my gosh, that's so impressive.
Yeah, some things about me in my like recent kind of thing. I've always had a drag persona in the background that I haven't debuted yet, but I'm planning to on Oahu eventually. And my drag persona is Sheriff Yeti, so I can gender bend either female or male, depending on how I
Yes.
feel. And I already found my drag debut song, so it's something I want to do. Pole dancing is something I've wanted to do as well because I've heard about it through Nicole Byer, who's one of my favorite podcast guests, or not podcast. Wow, she's not been a guest, but manifest. She's been one of my favorite podcasters, and she's actually what inspired me to become a podcaster myself. And she's a funny lady, and I love her. And so she does a lot of pole, and I'm like, if Nicole can do it, because Nicole is a big gal, and she owns
Do it
that.
and post your progress. Be some inspiration for me because
Yeah, if
I wanna
I
give
okay,
it
but if I
I wanna
take
give
a
it a try.
class, I think it's worth. Yeah, if I take a class, I think it's worth it. But yeah, um, so as we're
So it's so
winding,
cool that you're
yeah,
it's so cool you're doing drag because I really want to do burlesque and like I still I'm trying to get to my confidence
let
level
me
to the point where I'm brave enough
see.
to
Let
do
me
it.
noodle. Let me noodle offline. I think I know some people in the scene out there, so let me noodle on it because Portland's not that
Yeah.
far, and you can always do like a trip to
Yeah.
Portland. My best
It's
friend's
like
out
the same
there.
distance. It's like the same distance from when people are like, "Oh, isn't Portland far?" I'm like, "No. If Eugene is San
Yeah,
Diego, then Portland is LA. Like
yeah, and
it's
I've been
almost
to Eugene.
exact."
I used to work for a company where I was in Eugene and Corvallis for like 3 weeks, and then Portland for two weeks, and it was just like a marketing job I had like in my early 20s. And I loved Oregon. I loved Oregon, but why I don't understand why I can't pump my own gas. I just have to say that. But whatever.
I don't mind it. I don't want to get out of my car when it's raining. I'm
So
I'm
yeah.
happy sipping my car while some cute guy is filling me out. I'm like, oh,
I love it. I love
proud.
it. Jackie, thank you again for coming on the podcast. As we're winding down, the last question I always love to ask is just what's making you currently happy in the world? And after we answer that, we'll turn it over to how and where people can find you, and we'll wrap it up.
So what's making me happy in the world? I'm really a couple things, and I'll try to make it quick because I know we've been chatting for a while, but I am really happy to see the this huge surge in acceptance of seeing therapy or seeing therapists and getting mental health
Yeah.
stuff taken care of, and seeing men especially becoming more open to it, rather than keeping everything like stuck down inside and having to be stoic and like getting rid of those masculine or that toxic masculinity type thing where you have to be a man or whatever. It's like, no, be vulnerable. Like vulnerability is a superpower. Like that's how you grow as a person. And
Yeah.
seeing like people and men accept it finally is making me super happy.
I
The other thing
agree.
that's making me really happy is just being in the Pacific Northwest with my people. Like
Yeah.
I found out that so Eugene, Oregon, or I guess this area has more comic book stores and board game
I didn't
stores
know that.
like
Per
that like
capita?
per capita, yeah,
Whoa.
than like anywhere else. Like you can't throw a rock without hitting either a brewery, which I'm all for.
Oh,
I
I miss
mm,
breweries. Oh,
yeah,
Wahoo. I
you
hate
can't hit
you.
a brewery, dispensary, and a game store. Like
Hell yeah, that's a fun night right there. Woo!
Yeah, I visit like 5 comic book stores a week to pick up my issues, and I like to because I like to support small business, and I love it, and it makes my heart so happy that I get to actually have a community. And my favorite bookstore, comic book store, Books with Pictures Eugene, where I'm doing a special promotional cover for them, which I'll put out
That's
online.
so
I don't know if I can talk
cool.
about it yet. Yeah, so it's going to be like a store exclusive variant cover for a comic that's coming out in March. So it's something that I've been wanting to do for
Yeah.
years. And they're right next to a fabulous queer bar called Spectrum. So you get your
Ooh.
comics, and then you go to the queer bar, and you do your karaoke, and you play Magic, and it's
That's so
I
cool.
it feels like I'm home, and that makes me so happy.
I'm happy for you that you finally have that community after you've been yearning for it for so long. Cause being in Southern California is like, ugh.
Well, it's not even in Bishop. It's so isolating, and I
Oh
had no
yeah.
friend group.
Well, that's how I
I was
felt before I dug for it. You dig for it and then you move. Like I'm moving. So we're in the same trajectory because we moved in July. So I love that.
but I don't hate it like coming from Bishop and that isolation because it forced me to, or not forced me, but it gave me the opportunity to pursue art and to get better at it, because I wasn't
Yeah.
so distracted. It's like, I have nothing else to do. What am I going to do? I'm going to paint, I'm going to garden, I'm going to sculpt, I'm going to make costumes. And so I had a lot of time to figure out my style and um, develop my passions. And now I have those passions, I'm taking them with me
Yeah.
um, and just into a better environment where I can
Yeah.
actually use those skills.
You, unrelated, would be a really great art teacher. I just think you should know that.
You think I'd be a good art teacher?
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I want to be a tattoo artist. We didn't
Oh,
get to
okay.
talk about that,
Offline, I'm gonna
but that's
connect
okay.
you. I'm gonna connect you to
Yeah.
Christina. We'll figure it
Do
out.
you,
But yeah, yeah, you'd be
yeah.
great at it. Absolutely.
that's
Apprenticeship
my
is an
that's my
awesome
next
thing.
that's my next step, but you can't do a traditional apprenticeship here.
Mm,
You have to go to an accredited educator, and its average cost is 12,000, and there's no tuition assistance for that. So
interesting.
that's
Interesting.
gonna be a struggle, but we'll get there. We'll
We'll
get
get
there.
there. We'll get
I'll
there.
figure
We'll
it
talk
out.
offline. So, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Of course, this is Please Don't Kick Me Out, the only inclusive podcast about imposter syndrome. Where can people find you to maybe commission you for art, learn more about your struggles, or reach out to you because they want to join the military and they want your experience and your stories? Where can they find you?
I am pretty much everywhere online as Red Velvet. That's red and it has two D's, so REDD Velvet.
Mhm.
Red Velvet Art, Red Velvet Fox. Just Google Red Velvet with two D's. And I know that sounds funny, but um, red with the double D's, which is not true. Yeah, just give that a Google. I'm that on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those
Yeah,
places.
absolutely. Jackie, all that information is going to be in the comments section, or if you're listening in your earbuds right now, hi, hello. We are on YouTube as well. If you want to check out and see this beautiful human or see me wearing a Death is Certain shirt with a dog on it, then yeah, go for it. YouTube.com/please don't kick me out. I think that's actually going. Anywho, we are everywhere you need to be. All the information for Jackie is going to be in the description of the podcast, the description of the YouTube video, the description of any of the social media, online, everywhere. Rate, share, like, etc. Thank you so much, Jackie, for being on Please Don't Kick Me Out, and mahalo for your kakua.
Well, thank you.